In a time of famine and deep uncertainty, a single act of loyalty would echo through generations, changing the course of a nation. It is the story of a woman named Ruth.
It was a time of unrest in the land of Israel, a fragile period before kings, in the days when the judges ruled.
And into this world of shifting loyalties came a more immediate crisis, a devastating famine. For one family, it would force a desperate choice.
The hunger drove a man and his family from their home in Bethlehem. They had no choice but to seek refuge in the neighboring land of Moab, an ancient rival. But this new land offered no true sanctuary. First, tragedy took the father, Elimelech. His sons, in time, married Moabite women, Orpah and Ruth. But after a decade had passed, death visited the family again. Both sons died, leaving their mother Naomi utterly alone, a widow, and now childless, in a foreign land. Word eventually reached her that the famine in Judah had ended. So, with nothing left to hold her in Moab, Naomi prepared for the long, lonely journey back to Bethlehem. She was returning with nothing, and with no one. On the road back, Naomi turned to her two daughters-in-law. She urged them to go back, to return to their own mothers' homes in Moab. She released them from any obligation to her, an old woman with no future to offer. After a tearful farewell, Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye and turned back toward her people and her gods. But Ruth did not move. She clung to Naomi, refusing to leave her side. And she said to Naomi, "Do not urge me to leave you or to return from following you. For where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God." And so the two women walked on together. They arrived in Bethlehem just as the barley harvest was beginning, a time of abundance and hope. But for Naomi, it was a bitter return. The townspeople whispered. The woman who had left full had come home empty. In Bethlehem, they faced the immediate question of survival. And so, to provide for them both, Ruth turned to an ancient custom, a provision for the poor and the widow. She went out to the fields to glean, to follow behind the harvesters and gather the stalks of grain they left behind. As it happened, the part of the field where she found herself belonged to a man named Boaz, a wealthy landowner and a relative of Naomi's late husband. This practice, gleaning, was an ancient law in the land. It was a right for the poor, the orphan, and the widow, a way for them to eat by gathering with the main harvest left behind. As Boaz oversaw his harvesters, he noticed Ruth. He asked his foreman who she was, and the foreman told him her story, that she was the Moabite woman who had come back with Naomi, who had left her own people to care for her mother-in-law. Her loyalty moved him. He spoke directly to Ruth, saying, "I have been told all that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband. May the Lord reward you for your deeds." And with his words came protection. He instructed his men not to bother her, and to make sure she had water to drink and grain to eat. That evening, when Ruth returned home with an unexpected abundance of grain, Naomi understood. She realized Boaz was a near kinsman, a potential redeemer for their family. And in that realization, she devised a daring, risky plan for their future. Her instructions for Ruth were precise, and they were steeped in ancient custom. She told Ruth to wait until the harvest celebration was over, then go to the threshing floor where Boaz would be sleeping. She was to quietly uncover his feet and lie down, a symbolic act that would place her fate entirely in his hands. In the dark of the threshing floor, Ruth did exactly as Naomi had told her. Around midnight, Boaz awoke with a start to find a woman lying at his feet, and she made her plea. "I am Ruth, your servant. Spread your cloak over me, for you are a kinsman redeemer." Boaz praised her for her virtue and her loyalty. He agreed to do the part of the redeemer for her, but he revealed an obstacle. There was another kinsman, one with a closer legal claim. The matter, he promised, would be settled publicly in the morning. At dawn, Boaz went to the city gate, the place where all legal and public matters were settled. He sat down and waiting, gathering the town elders as witnesses for the transaction that was to come. When the other kinsman arrived, Boaz publicly offered him the first right to redeem the land belonging to Naomi's family. At first, the man agreed. But then Boaz added the condition. Redeeming the land also meant taking Ruth, the Moabite, as his wife. Fearing this would endanger his own estate, the kinsman refused, relinquishing his right. To seal the deal, he removed his sandal and gave it to Boaz, a binding custom in Israel.
With the way now clear, Boaz turned to the elders and all the people at the gate. He announced that he had acquired the land and that he would take Ruth as his wife. He did this, he declared, to preserve the name of the dead and to ensure their family inheritance would not be cut off from Israel. And so, a family line that had been on the verge of disappearing was restored. Through this marriage, the future of a king would be born. A story that began in famine and loss ended in marriage and birth. Boaz and Ruth had a son, and they named him Obed. This Obed would become the father of Jesse, and Jesse would become the father of David, Israel's greatest king. And Naomi, who had returned empty and bitter, now held a child in her arms. From a field in Bethlehem, from an act of kindness to a stranger, a royal line was born. The story of Ruth, the Moabite woman, became woven forever into the story of Israel itself.